Hi, and welcome back to Reconnected, your home for everything strategy, innovation, and entrepreneurship. I'm Teko Musiani, lead strategist here at Reconnected Africa. And in this video, we're going to start a new series. With so much interest out there in investing in Africa, I thought I would start going industry by industry, giving you guys some vital insights on how best to approach these industries in Africa. In this video, I'll be giving you the do's and don'ts on how to best approach doing business in the African beauty market. Beauty as a global industry has some norms around the world, but there are some distinct differences in the African beauty industry that I feel that both local entrepreneurs and foreign investors don't fully consider before getting into the African beauty business. So I hope with these insights, I can help you guys best navigate this highly competitive market. So let's start with the don'ts, shall we? Don't number one, don't ignore cultural sensitivities. Best as you can, try and avoid imposing Western or Eastern beauty standards in Africa. I find a lot of people even do this by accident and unintentionally because they haven't done the research in the nuances of our beauty standards. Western and oftentimes even Eastern ideals of beauty do not match African standards of beauty. African standards of beauty are centered more around natural beauty, natural practices. Also, differences in how we view certain beauty products. For instance, bleaching products are far more popular in parts of Asia and parts of West Africa specifically, but the rest of Africa doesn't really allow for even the conversation around bleaching products to go too far. A lot of times people don't understand that although that there are certain beauty standards that might push women to consider certain procedures, that doesn't mean that culturally or socially it is recommended. There are nuances in our beauty standards, just like any other country's beauty standards. And it is very important for you to understand how they differ from region to region. Once upon a time, one of the biggest beauty outlets in South Africa was also shown to not care about these cultural sensitivities, and they almost immediately regretted it. Clicks is arguably one of the biggest health and beauty retailers in the country. They have stores all across South Africa and Southern Africa. In an online advertisement, they used a picture of natural 4C African hair to depict dry, brittle, and damaged hair. After which, they recommended a slew of products to fix this dry, brittle, and damaged hair, even though the pictures used was simply 4C hair in its natural state. This caused a huge uproar, and honestly, they could not have picked a worse time to do it because back then, one of our main opposition political parties, the EFF, was going around doing in-person strikes and shutdowns to all these companies that disrespected African consumers and African workers. Clicks, unfortunately, was a company found to be guilty of both. There were strikes, walkouts, and even vandalism against Click stores in response to this highly insensitive beauty marketing. Eventually, they had to show remorse and they entered into an agreement with the EFF and basically promised never to run such an insensitive marketing material ever again. And they were one of the first retailers to sign on to the EFF's program to offer free sanitary pads for girls. Because the biggest risk that you're taking with being culturally insensitive is not understanding which parts of the culture you're tapping into, which parts of the culture you're emboldening, and which parts of the culture you're oppressing. Even as a beauty product, that is important in Africa. Don't number two, don't underestimate the importance of packaging. Packaging plays a huge role in the African beauty market for many reasons. On the one hand, sustainability. As I've explained before in the series of Better Understanding African Consumers, sustainability is a part of African culture. Very rarely do we use anything just once. That includes things like the packaging of beauty products. We reuse boxes and bottles and plastics because we believe in the circular economy. We believe in sustainability practices as a way of life. Packaging is very, very important because the quality of your packaging can also make people want to buy it again. Maybe not just for what's inside, but also for the reusability of the packaging. Another reason that packaging is very important in Africa is that it signals the quality of the product. There are little subliminal signs when you're shopping as a true beauty product lover, where you learn the difference between a good product and a bad product just by looking at the packaging. African businesses and brands invest a lot in creating distinct colors and fonts and trying by all means to use familiar, usable packaging with unique, distinct branding. A lot of times when people launch beauty brands with trending aesthetics, it doesn't work because that trending aesthetic might not signal quality and durability in the African market. I'll use this as an example. There's a aesthetic that was quite popular over the past few years around beauty products. It kind of gave it like a lab aesthetic, a very plain, text focused label with basic information on it. Don't do that in Africa. There was even cases where some existing brands were trying to, rebrand, and they chose this new trending aesthetic and ended up actually losing customers. Make sure that you understand the signals that your packaging gives to the African consumer, because if it signals poor quality or that it's childish or too trendy, it actually can make you lose consumers. So definitely take as much time as possible in perfecting your packaging. Number three, don't overlook consumer education. A lot of people, when they make a product, they think, oh, people will just know what to do with it. No, that's not how human beings work. If you are entering a competitive market, specifically the beauty industry, anywhere in the world, you need to focus on your differentiating aspects. On one level, mascara is mascara, shampoo is shampoo. So, how will people know the difference between your mascara and the one that they've been using for the past however many years? Consumer education is a strategic point of a successful marketing campaign in the African beauty industry. We need to know why your product deserves our money, not just what your product is. You need to provide clear instructions on your packaging. You need to provide clear benefits in all your marketing material. And the message that you send out to the beauty market in Africa, ironically enough, can't be just superficial. Consumer education can help you place yourself in the right pockets of understanding. Explain the benefits of your product in a relatable way. Invest in projects and marketing campaigns that educates people on the ingredients, on the benefits, on the psychological and physical changes that using your beauty products can bring to them. A great example of this is the Gauche technique. I don't know how to pronounce it, I'm so sorry. But it was very popular in East Asia, specifically to help people depuff their face after a long night of drinking. Now, in South Africa, we have a name for that face. It's called a Pooza face. Ironically enough, as much as East Asian beauty products have gradually grown to be popular in Africa, the Gauche technique didn't really take off. We've had those little Gauche things in stores available for years, but it didn't take off until consumers saw on TikTok all the Gauche technique tutorials coming out of America and Europe, as those industries were also starting to adopt Asian beauty practices. And once people found out that this Gauche technique can help you after a long night of drinking or when you didn't sleep properly and your face is puffy, basically, you guys gave us a cure for a Pooza face. I don't think you understand the holy grail that was unlocked. it became insanely popular for people to do the Gosha techniques in South Africa. Those little Gosha apparatuses were adopted by more and more beauty brands making their own version in silicone and other materials. So think of your beauty product. Think of it really. What can it do for people? How does it do this? And does this solve a relatable issue in the African beauty market? Don't number 4. Don't overlook local regulations. There's a double-edged sword to regulations in beauty products. It can be both limiting but also illuminating. There are many beauty products that sell overseas that just wouldn't pass the test here in Africa. We have different regulations around ingredients. But then also we have important regulations around testing, labeling, and other important requirements. I advise you, before you start getting too excited, find out if it's even plausible for this product to exist in Africa. And just because it's popular overseas doesn't mean that we would allow it here. The best way to do this is to make sure that your product goes through as many local and relevant health and regulatory authorities. They offer the best guidelines on what should be on your labeling and how to best stay within all the other local regulations around things like branding and marketing as well. First thing you should do before even developing the product is understand the regulations in the beauty industry, and you can understand best how to maximize the potential of the industry within the limits of the regulations so that you don't end up losing a lot of money from delays and fines and penalties from not following the regulations. Do number 2. Do focus on quality and affordability. As explained in my previous video of better understanding African consumers, I explained that all consumers at all class levels are extremely price sensitive. And what that translates to in certain industries like the beauty industry is that even if people have the money, that doesn't mean that they're willing to pay that price. The quality and affordability of a product, especially a beauty product, is vital because that determines your repeat buyers, the people who make that product part of their routine, their lifestyle, and might even pass it down to their children. But if people can't afford to buy that product more than once, why buy it at all? Make sure you do a lot of research on your competitors and their pricing strategies in terms of different retailers, different regions, different countries. Make sure that you're offering value for money, whether it's on the higher end or the lower end of the spectrum. A great example of this is product lines like Soften Free. Soften Free is a household brand, and they are known for having very affordable alternatives, especially at salons, to products by bigger brands like Dark and Lovely. Soften Free has multiple lines, but all of them can be classed as affordable in accordance to their product category. They recently became extremely popular again with the affordable approach to cannabis beauty products. They have infused cannabis and shea butter in their moisturizers and hair foods to create a new beauty range. They have made a quality product that uses local indigenous practices like including cannabis in beauty products, and they have placed it at an extremely affordable and accessible point for most African consumers. You can literally buy it at most grocery stores. Even if you're priced towards the middle class, the lower class, whoever it is, value for money, accessibility, and affordability are the defining factors of a successful beauty brand. Do number 3, leverage local ingredients. Africans, similar to many Asians, already have indigenous beauty practices. Okay? We had those aunties and uncles, in the kitchen mixing up their own hair food and hair oils. So we understand beauty ingredients at a fundamental, cultural, natural level because it's instilled in us from a very young age. We understand what shea butter is, what jojoba is. We know what almond oil and peppermint and moringa do for us. So it is of your best interest to include those things in your products. And as you include them, highlight the use of these ingredients as a point of marketing and market differentiation. A great example of this is a brand called Africology. They are seen as a more higher end brand, but they are known for using quality local ingredients in their products. People from around the world love their products. Oftentimes, people discover it in South Africa during their holiday and might want to buy it as like a souvenir. And then they soon discover that it's almost impossible to find that quality of blends anywhere else in the world because they specifically pull from African herbs and African beauty blends that already exist in our indigenous and cultural practices. Another example is a more lower end brand called Black Chic. Black Chic is an extremely affordable hair care line, and one of their most popular products is their hair food because it simply has 3 or 4 basic ingredients that we all recognize: petroleum, coconut oil, jojoba oil. Black Chic is one of the most consistently favored and consistently found hair foods across all African salons and a lot of African households, simply due to the accessibility, the affordability, and the familiarity of the ingredients. So, when developing beauty products for the African consumer, definitely find ways to use localized ingredients. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And many times that almost scares us away. Just find ways to infuse and incorporate our local products. Do number 4, do build local partnerships. It is very common, actually, for beauty products in South Africa to be made in a multi step way. We don't have as strong a manufacturing sector in our country as we would like. We are still growing that up. So, a lot of times, the product is manufactured in its home country, like Asia, America, or Europe. It is packaged locally. This benefits you from a business standpoint. Having a more globalized ecosystem can help you cut costs and allow you to foster longer standing relationships. But obviously, collaborating with local distributors, retailers, influencers, and such allows you access to a deeper level of understanding of the market. Another way for you to build local partnerships is by working with local beauty professionals, working with local hairstylists and makeup artists who actively work in the salons. I think one of the most successful forms of this approach has definitely been Dark and Lovely. There was a time where you couldn't walk into a single salon, whether it's in a suburban area or in a township or even in impoverished areas, and not find a Dark and Lovely poster. By working with more local beauty professionals, Dark and Lovely has been able to develop more localized products for the African consumer. And finally, do number 5. Do offer both online and offline availability. Just like I mentioned in our last series about better understanding the African consumer, a lot of African brands and businesses now have mobile first services. For example, it is quite common in Africa for you to be able to call your hair braider to your house. Because I mean, if I'm going to be sitting somewhere for 7 hours getting my hair braided, I might as well be comfortable. And there are a lot of hair braiders who lose out on business because they do not offer that mobile first accessibility, that online availability to offline service. So don't be like those people who only have their beauty products and beauty services available in one location. My sister, those things don't work. Oh. They don't work here. You need to make sure that you not just only find distribution partners that can get you on retail shelves, but get you in the hands of the retail braiders. Basically find as many avenues of distribution as possible because in store only simply just is not enough in the African market. A great example of this is Aunt Jackie's. In America, they are a very well loved brand because they actually better cater for more 3C hair than 4C hair. But nonetheless, they wanted to come into Africa to break into for the 4C market. And I just have to say this, they did a bad job. They wanted first to be exclusively at a certain retailer, but their prices were so overboard. And then they started moving into other retailers with other locations, but they suffered there because, again, their prices were just overpriced compared to their competitors. And then when they finally started tapping into the e-commerce space and all these things, they had to spend so much money on marketing, on pivoting people's perception, because from their experience, they'd already placed themselves as this brand that was detached, that was ineffective, that wasn't accessible, and that wasn't affordable, and that wasn't available. Over time, though, I think Aunt Jackie has been learning. Their prices have reduced. They are more available on different online e-commerce retailers, and they've stopped this nonsense of having an exclusive retailer. It is very important for you to make sure that as you are entering this market, you make yourself best available to as many people as possible and not try to play class politics when it comes to beauty. It just doesn't work in Africa. Okay, I think that's all the advice that I have for you guys in this video. Thank you so much for watching. But if you're serious about doing business in Africa, reach out to us at Reconnected. We are a strategy consultancy that specializes in creating strategic and implementation plans that best allow entrepreneurs and investors to succeed in African markets. So definitely let us know how we can help you.